All right, let's check in now with SSI Guardian. It's one of the nation's leading organizations for school safety and security as we continue to monitor the deadly events in South Florida today. I'm joined now by their president, Michael Yorio. Good evening, Michael. Unfortunately, this is your area of expertise. How can any school be prepared to meet this kind of threat when somebody shows up and they're armed and they are determined?
Good evening, Shannon. Thank you for having us. Very, very sad day in Florida, and our heartfelt prayers to the community of Parkland. To answer your question, schools can do a myriad of things to try to mitigate these things. Unfortunately, there is no guarantee against this awful, awful threat. But implementing a 21st century safe school, implementing best practices are things that schools can do to, again, help mitigate such things from happening.
I mean, I've been in plenty of high schools these days in this age covering stories and covering violence, and many of them do have metal detectors. I mean, there are a lot of parents who that's not the ideal situation. They don't want their kids to feel that way about going to school, but is it something that in this kind of situation would have even stopped this individual?
Hard to say, and metal detectors, that's just one of many measures that may or may not be effective. A comprehensive security plan is just that. It's comprehensive, many different parts working in synergy. And quite frankly, it all starts with evidence-based advanced training that helps you mitigate whatever threats you may have.
Okay, I want to play something from the sheriff, the Broward County Sheriff tonight, talking about what
Sure.
you do with somebody who is this determined. Here's what he said.
If a person is predisposed to commit such a horrific event, like go into a school and shoot people, if a person is going to drive a truck into a crowded area, if a person is committed to committing great carnage, there's not anybody or not a lot law enforcement could do about it or any entity could do about it.
With that in mind, you talk about training. What is the best advice to educators, to students who find themselves in this situation?
And that officer was absolutely right. If somebody is that determined to drive a vehicle into your school, that's very hard to stop. When we talk about training, we're talking about looking at the core root of the problem. Bullying, for example, is the #1 attributing factor to school shootings. Yet when it comes to bullying, most don't think about active shooter, they think about other things. We know in this case, this particular attacker, through the reports from students and social media reports, he was in fact bullied, which again plays into bullying being the #1 contributing factor.
Yeah, and you know, there were a number of students who reported their interactions with them, their fears about him. I want to play a soundbite from one of the students who spoke out about that today as well.
I always see him like last year. I see him walk around. He was like shy, like with his lunch bag, but like he wouldn't talk a lot.
What was your take on it?
I mean, he was like that weird kid at school that you see, like walk around in school.
Described as a loner?
Yeah, like a loner.
So Michael described as shy, described as a loner, and yet today he was anything but that when he showed up armed. And for now, 17 people have lost their lives, maybe more.
And these are some of the common threat indicators that school teachers, employees, students need to be taught and trained upon. So if you understand what these threat indicators are, then obviously you can take action to try to mitigate things from happening.
Michael Yorio, we thank you very much for your insights tonight. We know that what you do in informing and helping schools and colleges and other potentially vulnerable areas is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Be safe.